Julius Jones case is just one of three high-profile cases that we're watching closely. Also in Wisconsin, the jury's still out in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, the teen accused of killing two men during the 2020 Kenosha protests. The governor has activated 500 National Guard members to be on standby in Kenosha, awaiting any potential unrest nearing the verdict. And in Georgia, three white men are on trial for allegedly chasing down and killing Ahmaud Arbery. The defense teams for those men resting their case on Thursday. So joining us now in studio is Chicago attorney William Bill Gibbs, breaking down these cases one by one. They are so unrelated. I know that we've heard a lot of talk about all of them for a very long time. These have been in the public consciousness for quite some time. But let's start with Julius Jones and clemency being granted by Governor Stitt in Oklahoma. A huge deal, just hours away from his execution. Really, he can never get parole, though. I mean, that was the one caveat. Is this correct?
That's right. So the Pardon and Patrol Board had asked for life sentence with possibility of parole.
Right.
Governor Stitt decided not to give that recommendation. It's all the way, you know, and so he is in prison for life without the possibility of parole, and that's a final decision. There's no appealing that. The governor, according to Oklahoma statute, has that power.
So even though there are people who've been campaigning for Julius Jones to be exonerated, for that parole to be granted to him, they're saying they're going to continue to fight. What's the legal standing there?
The only possibility would be the governor reconsiders, or another governor at another time makes a different decision. Right. As for now, it's a final decision. Okay. There's been 4 appeals, I think, of the case over 22 years. So the possibility of a retrial or any new trial is very, very, very unlikely. Very unlikely.
Okay, let's move to the Rittenhouse trial. We know we're in day 4 of deliberations for the jury. Also, there's been this debate over the video. The jury possibly having a very hard time reaching a verdict in this one. When it comes down to it, obviously people are looking at the fact that this is a very polarizing case. Did Kyle Rittenhouse instigate violence by coming to the protest with a gun? Does he even have a case of self-defense, considering that he was a 17-year-old? He says that he went down to this neighborhood to protect businesses. Obviously, many in the community impassioned, feeling hopeless. What could they do to change things in light of the fact that there were riots and protests happening in the streets? A lot of people have an opinion on this case, but what is your thought about this?
So you've touched on a lot of the issues that I'm sure are being discussed in that jury room over the last 23 hours now, and will continue today. And it seems, we're reading tea leaves, so it's impossible to know.
Exactly.
But it seems that the polarization that you've just touched upon may be actually in existence in that courtroom. Last night, the defense attorney made a comment that he believes that it's 6 versus 6. And if that's the case, it's hard to imagine at this point we're going to have a verdict in the case. It's possible that reading those tea leaves is wrong, and it's 11-1 or 10-2, and somebody's decision could change over the course of today or next
But
week.
they might be deadlocked.
But this jury may very well end up deadlocked, which would result in likely a new trial at some point in the future.
Let's talk about the Ahmaud Arbery case. Of course, we heard from one of the McMichaels, one of the men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery, on the witness stand, saying that it was important to him to speak out on his own behalf and speak about his perspective, saying even as much as that he was attacked by Arbery, that Arbery tried to take his gun away from him. How much does that testimony weigh in a case like this, which has already, again, received so much attention? The video's been everywhere.
So like Rittenhouse, the defendant chose to take the stand. The defendant does not need to testify in his own defense, but the defendant has chosen to take the stand. And what that tells us is that they are going for self-defense. Georgia has a stand your ground statute, which says that if that defendant in that moment felt that he was threatened, he can stand his ground and even use force to stand ground. The jury eventually will be charged with deciding the case. And so those jury instructions are not yet finalized. So I can't exactly say how that's going to play out, but I think what's happening is the defense is setting up a self-defense defense, which is going to be an interesting defense in light of the video that everyone's seen.
In light of the video, in light of him being chased, which has been widely reported, and we're talking about Arbery being chased, not the McMichaels being chased, and the fact that there were 3 men versus 1 man who is now dead.
And that brings up a statute that has since been repealed in Georgia that allows for citizens to make arrests if they reasonably believe that a crime has recently been committed. And that is another defense that they're going to put up, is that they feel that it was their duty as citizens to be monitoring the community. And I think the jury will, hear that testimony, because even though the law has since been repealed, at the time of the incident, it was in effect. And so that will be another issue that this jury will wrestle with.
Nothing very easy about any of these cases. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.